Hey guys, welcome back to another WNBA props video. We have just a 2-game slate tomorrow to recover from that 5-game slate slaughter. It felt like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre up in here, but we've got to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and it actually wasn't that bad. It just felt that bad because we had Skylar Diggins. She did not show up for us, and we had her in a lot of different slips. She was the thumbnail. So let's jump into the recap, and then we'll cover tomorrow's plays. Okay, guys, so jumping into the recap from yesterday, like I said, it wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be, but as far as the best bets go, it was pretty bad. We went 3-1 on the best bets. We did hit a couple of our leans, at least half of them, and then I also was able to bet those Prize Picks tacos or discounts that they put out, those 3 discounts that they put out yesterday. All 3 of those hit, so that mitigated the loss for us, but as far as the best bets go, it was a pretty bad day. So Sabrina was the most frustrating one, and she was the only one that hit for us. She ended up with 26, but she shot 1 for 11 to start the game, and that was just incredibly frustrating. The Jackie Young bet, obviously, it came nowhere close, so we were just completely off on that call there. She only ended up with 2. Paige Bucker's under 25.5 PA. This is something that I bet 2 days before the game. I did not know Enrique was not going to play when I made this bet. And as soon as I found out Enrique was going to play, I warned you in the pinned comment not to bet against Paige. Although she did only barely get there with 1 bucket, basically. She ended at 28. So if she had missed a 3-pointer there, she would have gone under for us. She shot 8 for 11. And so she shot pretty well. Skylar Diggins got nowhere close. She shot 4 for 12, absolutely atrocious, ended with 11 points. So she didn't get us close to anywhere, and that's why the day felt so bad, because I had her in 3 separate slips, and I believe all 3 of those slips ended up losing. So I flexed 2 of them, and they still lost on the flex because all of these best bets just did not perform well. Our leans did okay. Satu Sabali over 1.5 3-pointers made. She only had 2, and she got that second one late, so that was sweaty. And then Napheesa Collier over 33.5 PRA. My reasoning behind this one was she was just going to come out after a really bad game against the Fever where she was embarrassed at home and just demolish them. And she did. So that we should have made that a best bet, but we did not. Kiki Ariafin, this was just a bad read. She only had 2 points. She only shot 4 shots. It was 1 for 4 in that same game. She did have quite a few rebounds. But I still think she missed her rebounds line because it was at 7.5 and she ended with 7 rebounds. So if you bet just the rebounds line, you would have missed that as well. That was an incredibly low scoring game, which we were expecting. But I probably forced that play in when I shouldn't have. Just on this 5-game slate, I wanted a lot of exposure. And then Alicia Gray, this was actually, I said Sabrina was the most frustrating, but this was the most frustrating one. Alicia Gray over 27.5 PRA. This was the added play in the comments. I kind of got the feeling Ryan was not going to play. So I went ahead and added her. She shot 3 for 13. So she shot horribly, but she barely hooked us on this line. And the most incredibly frustrating part is at the very end of the game, the Dream had the ball. They were trying to waste the clock because they were up by 1. And so they were wasting the clock, and there was about 11 seconds left. Alicia Gray was dinking around with the ball, and they were just passing it around. And, what ended up happening is they left enough time on the clock for the Storm to beat them with the game-winning shot from Skylar Diggins. So that's their own fault. I'm glad they lost the game just because Alicia Gray was dinking around with the ball when all we needed was 1 freaking assist or, for her to shoot the ball herself. But she did shoot terribly in that game and still almost got us there. Alicia Gray is a good player to bet on, guys, even though she has hooked us a couple of times this year. So that brings our total record up to 40, 22, and 1. So that's 64.5% record on our regular line best bets. Not as great as it was when it was up at 70%, but as long as it's over 60%, I think I'm still pretty happy with it. We were on an incredible run that was honestly a little bit unbelievable. And that should not be happening. So we finally did hit some regression here today. And I'm glad that we just have a 2-game slate tomorrow to kind of pick ourselves up off the floor here a little bit. And I do have 2 best bets for you for those games. First off, we are going to Dearica Hamby over 10.5 rebounds and assists. I know it's hard to see these graphs because they're so small, but she is over in 12 of 18 games. which is 67%. And then she hooked twice on top of that. So she's practically cleared this line in 14 games, just about. She had 12 last week against the Fever. She missed against a tough D or tough rebounding matchups. So the Mercury twice, the Valkyries, the Wings, the Lynx, and then the Storm is the one outlier game where she missed, and she really shouldn't have missed against the Storm. So in this game, Caitlin Clark is not going to be playing, is what I saw, that she was ruled out for this game. And so we have the lines pretty set for all of these players. I think that Dearica Hamby can get in there. I know Aaliyah Boston is a lot taller than her, but I'm hoping that Dearica Hamby is still able to get in there. Maybe she ends up scoring and doesn't do as much rebounding and assisting. I did look at that, but ultimately the PRA line just wasn't as consistent as the RA line. And I'm hoping that Azure Stevens, who does have the height to go up against Aaliyah Boston, ends up scoring more of those points again. I couldn't bet on Azure Stevens' points line. It was at, I think, 13.5 is where I saw it. She did just fine in their last game, but I ended up just going with Dearica Hamby. She's got a better track record. It's just a little bit more solid. We're trying to have a little bit of a bounce back here. And then our second best bet is a little bit like, I wouldn't say scary, just kind of, we don't know what's going to happen in this game. The Lynx and the Valkyries, it should be a low scoring game. And so it's scary to kind of bet some overs in this game. And on top of that, we don't know if Kayla Thornton is going to play or not. But I'm taking Veronica Burton over 16.5 PRA. We've missed a few bets on her, and so I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth with Veronica Burton, but when I looked at the data, she's over in 11 of 15 games at 73%, including her game against the Lynx earlier this year. She did miss one blowout game against the Sun, and then in those other misses, she just did not shoot well. So we need her to shoot at least 50% and get to the line at least once to shoot 2 free throws in order to clear this line, in my opinion, against the Lynx. But I think she can do that, and I think she can do that with or without Kayla Thornton on the court, although I think she has a better chance of doing it with Kayla Thornton on the court to draw some of that defensive attention. So just to recap, guys, we're doing Dearica Hamby over 10.5 rebounds and assists. She's just been incredibly consistent all year long and already hit once against the Fever. And then we're taking Veronica Burton over 16.5 PRA. We don't know if Kayla Thornton's going to play or not, but she did already hit this against the Lynx by a lot in their last game. And so I'm just going to ride with her again because she's been able to hit this pretty much all year long against good teams and bad teams. Thanks, guys.